Are you with me? Rainbow, curtain in the city, ocean, me downpour, upstream. Are you with me? Feeling
Good afternoon, everyone. BC Richfield here, coming to you live from Poland, and a huge welcome to our 6th edition of our annual trading congress. We're back, Bitcoin's back, crypto is definitely back. Congratulations to everybody that's taken this opportunity. The market is full of scammers. You've got your bad actors and fake influencers, and that's why we put this on every year. We want to introduce you to the best, most profitable, consistent traders with proven track records, and that's exactly why we host this event. You can join us every day this week. You can catch up on the shows that you've missed. You really do not want to miss this. The best time is now. And without further ado, I have just the most unbelievable pleasure of welcoming someone who's one of my favorite traders, someone I've got to meet recently in person, which has just been amazing. Welcome, Follis.
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you large and in charge, my friend. How's
Awesome.
life treating you?
Yeah, how we doing? Good to be here.
Awesome, man.
I think I'm also streaming this to my Twitch channel. I'm trying to figure out, is it working? It looks like it is. So
well, the good news is
community for this accidental stream.
Well, the good news is that it's certainly working from our side. So we're going to have, I mean, we've already got hundreds and hundreds bleeding into the thousands of people starting to pour in, which is absolutely awesome. You deserve every single one of them, my friends. So before I ramble on too much, because this isn't about BC, this is about Follis. Do you want to give the viewers, maybe some of them that don't know you, a little bit of an introduction about yourself?
Yeah, I can do, absolutely. So, hi guys, I'm Follis. I am a trader, content creator. I've been in crypto since early 2021, so I'm actually a baby by comparative standards. Even though I am a boomer, because as we discussed just before the call, I'm over 30. So that
baby boomer.
Yeah, that means that over 30 is officially retirement age in this industry. So yeah, I am an old man as well as being quite new to crypto. But I was in a former life, I was actually a lawyer. I was an investment fund lawyer, and I think most people know the story, or at least I've told the story already a few times. How I kind of accidentally fell into crypto. I joined crypto in like 2021, like peak euphoria. Everything was sending. Doge was doing like 10,000x off the lows. Everyone was making money, and I joined and I bought the top on everything, and I lost all of my money. And then that summer I discovered leverage trading, and I lost everything again. So so by the end of that year, I was like, I wasn't like homeless, but I was broke. I had no money left in crypto. And that's kind of where I said, like, well, either I give up now or I teach myself how to trade and actually knuckle down. So yeah, that was actually the real start of things, was the end of 2021. So that was like that's like 3 years ago now, I guess, November 2021. And yeah, just been grinding ever since. I guess it took me about, I guess, like a year after that to become like consistently profitable. And even that is a constant work in progress, you know. But yeah, then I also kind of, in tandem with getting better at trading and effectively learning how to trade, I also kind of grew a social media presence, and that's a lot of fun as well. I am on X. Obviously, most people probably know me from Twitter, but I also stream on Twitch, and I think I'm live now. So hello, my.
We can confirm you are, my friend.
Exactly. Yeah.
Twitch community.
I also do stuff on YouTube. So yeah, that's kind of like the rough and ready story of how I got to here. But yeah, it was very much a shaky start, followed by some, I don't know, stabilization, and hopefully I've kind of come around full circle now. But I think a lot of guys have that story where it's like you need to pay the tuition fee. Unfortunately, my tuition fee was about 50 bands, so it could have been less. I put it that way.
Brilliant. I love it. And you're so right. I did exactly the same. I was in the market a little bit earlier than you, but I was also kind of really, really lured in by like the traditional markets as well. Just, I kind of steered towards finance at a very early age, right? In school, schools in the UK, public schools anyway, they're basically, look, you can go and be a builder if you're of this kind of ilk, or basically just go and get a job in the city in finance, right? And I actually didn't want to do either. So I ended up originally going into music when I kind of like tried university, did a year, came out, went into music, had a crazy ride, ended up building businesses, selling businesses. And then someone introduced me to trading, which I thought, would be the last thing I'd ever want to do. And I'd never in my life still to today got more addicted to anything ever. It just the thrill of it. And then crypto came around and it just basically 10x'd everything, right? And funny enough, November, so when you stepped into the space, I think is actually when I teamed up with the Bird Nest, with the legend Crypto Bird and the team over here, right? I mean, you've had a meteoric rise, brother. I mean, look, you're someone that I've watched for a long time, right? Really, really keenly, right? And I know you, the guys over at Chroma, hugely respected trading community that you've got over there. Really surprising kind of how far you've come in such a short period of time. I think that's real testament to if you really put the work in and you really graft. And I know that you and I share messages at 2, 3 a.m. sometimes, right? We're out there and, you're not one to double down on the sleep, that's for sure, especially in a bull market. So before I ramble on too much, I got some questions for you, man. We've got a super, super engaged audience here who really, really want to hear some cool stuff. So let's start with the easy stuff, right? What's your outlook for this cycle? What is it that you're looking for?
So yeah, I kind of spoke about this on stream yesterday, actually, how I think the most exciting part of the cycle is either just coming now or in kind of weeks to months. I really think that we're on the cusp of something of effectively what we got in 2021, where Bitcoin had that pump above the previous all-time high, and then it kind of like people were like, oh, that's it, and then continued to rip, and then actually it was like when it consolidated and money started rotating into alts is when things went absolutely bonkers. So I think like something that I'm really a big proponent of, or a big believer in, is that we will get a proper I hate the word alt season, but we will get a proper rotation this year. Like people are talking about, oh, I've started to scale out, and I've started to, and this is NFA DYOR. This is my own risk, right? people are talking about scaling out, and oh, I think the cycle top is in. I think we retrace from here. I just don't see it that way. I really do think that the best is yet to come. I think that if you look at charts like BTC dominance and ETH BTC, I should not even ETH BTC for the moment, but BTC dominance, like historically in previous cycles, well, and the data set is small, right? Because I think the chart only goes back to 2 previous cycles, 2017, 2018, and 2020, 21. But if you see, there's always that time where dominance is rising and BTC price is rising and sentiment for alts is in the shitter, because people are like, oh, money's never going to rotate. BTC is always going to be this strong. And it in those 2 previous instances, it wasn't, right? Eventually dominance tops out. Eventually it drops, and there's a rotation from BTC into Ethereum, from Ethereum into the majors, from the majors into the mid caps, and so on. Now, I think that this cycle is different, right? People always say, oh, this time it is different because of ETF involvement, and also like the Trump administration. Like that's a wild card that we can't account for, right? It's the first time, not only the first time that crypto has been a talking point in the US elections, but it's also the first time that a president has been vocally pro crypto. Now, however much of that was was just ear candy for the crypto boys, I don't know, right? But it remains to be seen. The fact the fact is that he is pro crypto on paper, at least.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at charts like total 3, like it looks just incredibly bullish, right? That, for those who don't know, that's just the total crypto market cap minus BTC and ETH. Just looks insanely bullish, and we haven't even put in a new all-time high yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
It might have been my computer.
Just a
Just
little
looks like it's going to
You're
run.
all right. You're all right.
Yeah. It just looks like we're going to run for the highs. Charts like others as well, which I think
Mm-hmm.
is the crypto market cap without the top 10 or something like
I
that.
think, yeah.
But yeah, it just looks insanely bullish, and it looks like we have a lot more upside to go. So, I mean, it's all speculation, but at the same time, I really don't think that there's enough. But people are saying that it's not going to happen this year. I don't think there's enough reason to believe that until we see more concrete evidence. I do think that this time is different because of ETF involvement.
Mm-hmm.
But fundamentally, the fundamentals haven't changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Human greed, human avarice hasn't changed, right? Market psychology hasn't really changed. The crypto market is maturing, but the fundamentals that drive price and that drive price action are still the same. And I do think we see a rotation. I do think the most exciting part, the mania phase, is yet to come. Now, whether that
Mm-hmm.
happens next month or whether that happens in Q1 next year, or even if it's a slightly delayed fuse because of a variety of the factors we just mentioned. Look, I don't know. So that's kind of talk about outlook this cycle. Like, I don't ascribe to people who say that this time it is different. ETF
Mm-hmm.
involvement has changed the landscape forever. It has changed it, but the fundamentals are still in place. I do think that we will see an alt rotation and people's alt bags will send.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, make for a pretty boring input from me, actually, because I completely agree with everything you said. I do think, that there's a major catalyst with the US markets, the way that Trump is obviously backing this. I think Elon Musk is a huge factor for this market as well. Ultimately, the dynamic can change a little bit with the ETFs, right? The capital inflow and stuff like that. But I think if you look at the exposure crypto has now as well, I think, yes, it's a maturing asset, but it takes a long time for these things to wash through and for it to be treated like, like a traditional market asset, which is a lot of what I'm hearing, from people. The whole overextended argument and that, like you say, BTC dominance, total 3, stuff, they're not. When you look historically at the price of Bitcoin, you overlay it to those charts and then you do alts to the same. We haven't had anywhere near that kind of action that we've had in previous cycles, right? So I'm super, super bullish. I'm not really somebody that sets price targets as such. Really, what I try and do is look for the underlying factors to prop up the bull market and then say, okay, well, I kind of change my strategy a little bit. I'm typically more of a kind of low time frame scalper, intraday trader, love ranges. I was born through bear markets, right? So that was kind of how I cut my teeth. And I felt like I kind of traded too much in previous bull runs, right? And I really didn't maximize the idea of kind of buying, holding, seeing those kind of super normal returns. So I promised myself, no matter that, I'm going to, change that this time round, right? Obviously, balanced portfolio, good outlook on it. But I agree with you. I'm super excited by it. Look, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Ultimately, people always say this to me. They're like, what's the key thing about trading? And I'm like, it's more of a risk manager than anything, right? I'm managing my risk exposure to this market. I have exposure to traditional markets as well. But for me, I think we're going to see some incredibly exciting upside soon. And the catchphrase, the slogan, if you like, that we've had for a while now is the best time is now, right? With the Bitcoin B. And that's not just talking about don't just go throw your money into stuff on crazy leverage, right? But although I do like what you said earlier, and something that I learned, a phrase where so many of the best traders that get into this market lose money, take those big hits really early on. Really, really good. It really, really worked for me because, I then knew, okay, well, I can't obviously keep afford to do this again, right? So it really made me double down on my education, learning the markets. And that was probably a really, really big thing for me. And I'm a really, really keen scuba diver, and I love going to like Africa, South Africa and stuff. And when you do shark diving, you ever get rushed by a shark underwater, they call it paying your tax, right? You're paying your tax to be in that environment, right? And I think that's the tax you pay. And I like what you said as well. It's what you're paying for your education, what you pay to go to university, stuff like that, which obviously you did as a solicitor, right? That's what you're paying in this industry. But 3 years in crypto is a lifetime.
Yeah. Pain is a fantastic teacher, right? Like if you get hurt in a bad way financially, you'll remember those lessons for a long time to come. And something as well I wanted to mention is like when people say that this time really is different or this time we're not going to get an alt season. When you think about a year ago, right, when people spoke about what the bullish plan for this cycle was, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like think of the game plan that people thought in an ideal world. They were saying that we would get all of the ETF mania in the start of the year, right? Then we would have the BTC halving and the post halving chop, which is traditionally, like several months, right? It's like between 4 and 6 months of choppy price action. Then we would get upside into the elections, and then we would see an alt rotation. All of those things have happened. Like all of those things are ticking off, and then people are like panicking, like, "Oh shit! Like things are going wrong." No, like the playbook is playing out exactly like people said it would in an ideal bullish scenario. We're ticking all the boxes, and still people are like, "Oh shit!" Like, "Oh, I think the top is in." And look, and again, I'm not one of those guys who likes to say that my opinion is objectively correct and everyone else is wrong. And no, not at all. Like, part of being a trader is you're just playing the percentages, right? You're just saying that I think that this is slightly more likely to happen than this other thing, and I'm hedging my bets that way, or I'm betting my money that way. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. But if I'm right, I stand to make some money. So like, absolutely, I could be completely wrong. But I guess the risk-adjusted bet that I'm taking is that this time won't be any different to previous cycles, and we're going to see what everyone has been saying we're going to see.
Yeah, and you know what? It kind of segues really nicely into the next thing I wanted to talk to you about, but kind of as an interim point. I think what I've seen a lot in the markets, crypto, traditional markets as well, is like you say, you have these game plans laid out, right? And, everybody, when you kind of sat in the background and it's not happening, it's kind of that, it's like saying, oh, okay, I'm going on holiday next year, right? And I want that perfect beach body. And then it's like, well, it's a year away. So it's easy to say then I'll start hitting the gym in a month or two. I'll get my diet in shape, blah, blah, blah. Because you're easy on the sidelines. When you're then in the trenches, are you really going to the gym? Are you doing it? And for me, it comes down to conviction, right? And I think that actually, as so many people vocal about this last year, kind of like, if we get all of these things, it's just going to be the biggest thing ever. And it's going to be this huge alt season and Bitcoin's going to go above here and blah, blah, blah. And then it comes around, they're a bit like, no, actually, I'm kind of a bit scared of it now. And I think the very best traders I know just trade with conviction. And what I love about what you're saying there is, look, I'm not saying this is the right opinion. I'm not even saying this is what other people think, but it's what I think. And it's where my money's going and it's where my conviction is going, right? So I think conviction's such a big thing. And the next point I wanted to talk to you about, because this is something, as I said earlier, that I've really wanted to work on this time around, right? Which is managing trading and investing, right? And that's something you seem to do. Well, I mean, I know as a trader, I hugely admire trade, and none more so than by myself, right? But you're a very, very good investor as well. How do you, apart from not really sleeping, how do you manage that, right? How do you find that balance?
Well, I mean, maybe you're overestimating my investing skills, because my investing skills are really just like find coins that I think are interesting, or projects that I think are interesting. Buy some of that coin and then just don't really look at the chart for a long time after that. Like, I'm trying to think, like, two of my biggest plays of all time, and they're still ongoing. I actually haven't sold a penny of either of these, are Render and Cosmic. Like, Cosmic at the moment is it's almost hard to concentrate on this call because it's like 5x.
Yes, gone mad, right?
And like, it's now my biggest bag. So when you're seeing something like that, and that was a high conviction play. Like, I actually met when we were in Singapore, I met the founder.
Wow.
Like I had a good feeling about the team. Their project seemed just incredibly undervalued. And I think like that's another thing, is like, when you've been around for a while, you develop kind of a good sense of like who the bullshitters are, right? And that's why face-to-face meetings can be such a valuable, like an EV plus asset to have in your arsenal, or like such a good piece of research to conduct if you are like an investor or a trader. Like, if you speak to someone face to face, you very quickly get a feeling as to whether they're full of hot air or not. And I just got a good feeling about these guys, and bet heavy when it was chilling at the lows, and it chilled at the lows for a long time, because it's decentralized a VPN, so it's like it's a utility play. And a month ago, it's funny to think now, because CZ just made that post, right, about utility and AI coins and their sending. But a month ago, no one gave a shit about utility. Everyone was trying to figure out what the next meme was going to be, right? Like, the market moves so quickly from narrative to narrative. So I think that's another thing, is like, don't get caught chasing pumps, right? Chasing rips. If you're an investor, if you have a long time horizon or a long investment horizon on your plays, like look for the things that are undervalued that haven't moved yet, right?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about a coin that's 99% off the highs and you're like, oh, well, it's got to fill the wick, right? No, I'm not talking about like coins that are maybe like in their first cycle or they haven't had a chance to shine yet. You know that it's undervalued. You know that it's just a case that the right narrative hasn't hit or the right market conditions haven't hit. You know that it's just because BTC is sucking liquidity out of the market, whatever it is, right? And you have a reasonably high expectation that this thing is going to send when the conditions allow for it. Like that's when you bet heavy, right? And that's when you look for those big gains. Like, and I think something that I don't do a lot is meme coin investing, but the last few months and how that's been thrown into the spotlight with guys like Murad has just been fascinating to me. This whole idea that you're effectively, it's the same kind of research you're doing, right? But you're just researching into the meme strength of the community, right? You're looking at these Telegram groups and trying to figure out like how cracked are they? Like how wild are they? How degenerate are they? How like into the cause are they, right? And that's a form of fundamental analysis in itself, right? So it's like there are so many ways you can do it, right? But it all comes down to identifying value, right? Identifying things that are undervalued that you think are eventually going to pop when the market conditions allow for it. I think that's something that what's the guy's name? Roaring Kitty. I can't remember his actual name.
Oh Christ!
Yeah, the GameStop, the GameStop guy. Yeah, he always like his one of his names was deep fucking value, like DFV. That was one of the names he used in trading in forums, and he said that it came from the fact that he was always looking for stocks in his case that were undervalued, right? So if you find a stock that's undervalued, like that's how you make wealth, because you bet heavy on. In crypto, it would be coins or projects or teams or people, in some cases, that are undervalued that you think will pop. So I guess like that's kind of, and again, I'm not a superb investor by any means, but I would say that that's kind of it seems like an obvious thing to say, right? You buy the coins when they're low and you sell when they're high. But I think it's about figuring out value, and I think that's something you get better at the longer you spend in the game, is figuring out what's fair value. And then what's overpriced and what's underpriced. And I think like that's even relevant in trading as well, right? You see a coin that's pumped, I don't know, like 3x in a week, and you're like, is this the fair value for that coin, or is it overvalued? Is it time to short this coin now? Is it going to reprice lower? There are lots of those tenets that you can take into trading as well.
Yeah, I agree, and I think I think some of the greatest investors of all time, actually, are people. Warren Buffett as well, for example. People like that find the value, find things that are underpriced, things that where where you say, okay, look, whatever you're kind of looking into, there's a lot of different ways to do fundamental analysis, right? But I think what I learned very early in my career was actually, you can't be an expert in everything, right? For me, I think most people try and kind of learn everything, go really broad, try every strategy, look for, I'll do on chain a bit of this, I'll do that. But for me, actually, I think the very best people make it sound simple because to them, they've got a really great deep understanding of that niche right now, whether that's trading or investing. I think, like you say, value applies to both. And I think when you're building wealth, you're looking for those kind of plays. Now, I know you're by your own terms there, right? I think you sound like a pretty good investor, by the way. I think you may be doing yourself a little bit of injustice, but you are most well renowned as a trader, right? You're a TA guy. We have very, very similar kind of concepts of the markets, like ranging, support levels, highs, those gaps, watching price reactions, looking for those market shifts, looking for that momentum coming into the market, that displacement, stuff like that, right? So how do you paint your kind of top-down view of the market? Or an asset, for example?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I guess, so something that I try and always do is I want to trade the coins that have volume, volatility, mind share, attention, right? I don't want to trade a coin that's not going to move. I don't want to be in a position that's not going to move for days or weeks, right? That's at that point you're investing. That's a different thing. If you want to trade, you want to see the price moving, right? You want to see some action, whether it's for or against you. So a lot of the things that I will do when I'm picking, because the question I get asked all the time is like, how do you pick your watch list? I have a watch list of like, at any given time, it's like between like 30 and 50 coins. It's a big watch list, but I'll like scan that, maybe not every day, but every couple of days, and I'll try and figure out. I actually have like basically like my watch list is just split into two. It's like my B coins and my A coins, and the A coins are the ones that I'm actively looking at, actively trading, and then the B coins are ones that I haven't really seen anything that I like in them to be trading just right now. But I am still interested in trading them if something happens or if they hit a level. Yeah. So that's kind of the way it works. And a lot of the time I'll like scan Twitter, or I'll see what my analysts are doing in Discord, just to see like what coins are being traded at the moment, right? Because sometimes it's the most random coin. Like I had a really nice trade like 2 weeks ago on a coin called Degen. I had never even heard of it, right?
I was in Degen.
Yeah. I made like $5,000 overnight on this coin that I'd never heard of, because some guy on Twitter that I value, a guy called Owen, good trader, he started talking about it. And then simultaneous with that, one of the guys in my Discord, who they don't know each other, was also saying that, hey, I think like if we get a proper like meme pop here, I think this coin will do numbers, because small unit bias and it's consolidated at support for like 3 months and blah, blah, blah. So I bought some and it popped overnight. So like that's a good, because that wasn't even on my watch list, right? Like it said like 60%, overnight. But like that's the kind of thing where
different side as well, right? Which we'll go back to this in a minute, but do remind me, right? Because that goes into a different side where I saw a post of yours earlier, funny enough, which backs up a conversation we were actually having here at TBN over Congress, which is about the idea of, this trading being a lone wolf game and all this other stuff, where actually we get humongous value from having a team here. Not just a team, but being able, and again, goes back to what we were talking about earlier, being able to identify the best people in this market, build those relationships. Like we were in Singapore together, Dubai together, we crossed over with loads of people. You just, when you know how to do that, you tend to attract other good people like that. And then, when they say something like that, it's like, well, maybe, look, I'm not going to just trade their system. I've got my system, right? But if that call with their conviction meets my system, it'd be silly not to kind of back that play, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, like when someone, when a trader that you admire is bullish on a coin, I think it's kind of incumbent on you. Like one of the most interesting scenarios is when a trader that I admire has a different bias to me, because that forces me to look at myself in the mirror and say, well, why do I have this bias? Am I really sure? I'm not talking about like guys chipping away at your conviction. That's a different thing. But like there are like 4 or 5 traders that I work with every day that are like better traders than I am. Like that's one of my goals with Chroma, was to surround myself with traders that are better than I am. And I've done that very successfully. Right. So if someone in my server has a different bias to me, and I read that analysis and I go, fuck, okay, I need to look at my analysis again and say, well, why do I really think that? Is this just me being blinded by something that makes no sense really, or
2 hours sleep or something like that?
Yeah, but to go back to that lone wolf point, I mean, that's an interesting one. And even talking about my trading journey, like kind of getting to where I am, like my trading progress for that first year was like this. It was like just like getting like a small bit better every day, very very incremental gains, I'll put it that way. When was it? Like the end of 2021. It's like Christmas time 2021. It was exactly Christmas time. I got an invite. I was posting charts like every day on Twitter. I got an invite off some random guy that I had never met. He's like, hey, bro, I like your charts. Do you want to join like a Discord? It's just like me and some friends. We just share analysis every day. I was like, yeah, sure. So I get into that Discord and it's like 30 traders that like half of which I had on notifications on Twitter, like that I looked up to so much. Guys with tens of thousands of followers. I had 200 followers at the time, by the way. And like they were just sharing charts, talking charts, talking analysis. And I was the worst trader in there by a long shot, right? Like I was posting. I remember like posting. I was like, hey, I just saw like a liquidity sweep, and guys would just be like, who the fuck is this guy? Like that's not a liquidity sweep. Who let this guy in here? And I had to kind of be like, but that was so valuable, because it was like guys who were better than me teaching me, and I was able to like bounce questions off them. That I was in that server for like 8 months, I think. It was a short-lived thing, but holy shit, the trader that I came out at the end of that experience was 20 times the trader that I was when I went in there. Yeah. And that was only because I was in a relatively small environment where I could bounce questions off these guys. And thankfully they were they were nice enough to answer all my annoying requests and give me all the feedback that I wanted. But that was honestly, if I don't know where I would if I hadn't have stumbled into that Discord. I guarantee you the curve at which I would have learned trading would have been, would have been far shallower. I think it would take me longer to get where I am.
And again, it comes back to people, right? Good people. I think, I think I traded well before I came to TBN. Crypto Bird took a big chance on bringing me in. I was definitely the noob of the group. I was around some traders that I hugely admired. Himself. He's such a lovely guy, right? The people that you get to meet through him, the respect that he has in the space, just how giving he is to everyone. He really kind of took me under his wing and helped develop me. And just every day, analyst meetings with him, with these other traders, just incredible traders, absolutely blessed. And similar for me, really, I just saw this huge kind of spike in my growth, but also then in my confidence, right? Because all of a sudden, I'm the one that's then dropping some ideas and people are like, whoa, hang on a minute. That's good. I like that, right? That actually makes sense. I'd kind of missed that a little bit there, right? And then you kind of get, and again, it goes back to that point of conviction, right? You start backing yourself that much more. It's not an ego thing, I don't think. It's just that you're drawing on the experience of some people around you that are just so good, right? And because you respect them that much, you're raising your game. And my granddad always used to say this to me, and he always used to say two things. Never be the smartest man in the room, not difficult for me, and surround yourself with the very best people. And like we said earlier, buy low, sell high, find things that are undervalued. It sounds really simple, but actually you need that context to understand what you're looking for, right? Once you have that, you then want to make things as simple as possible, right? And I think that's another thing where, I have huge admiration for you. I look at your charts and stuff and I'm just like, oh man, that's so clean. And, you speak about it, you're just like, look, man, I remember watching one of your videos once and you're just like, people just stop buying these dips on the way down. Of course it might bounce here, but you just don't know. Just wait for it to do this, right? Get back above here, show you some strength, show you some momentum, right? Then you've just got a better likelihood of this working out. Yes, you're in later, but I think every top trader in this game knows that it's never about buying bottoms and selling tops, right? Investment wise, if you've got conviction in something, you've got the right information, the right resources around you to be able to kind of get into projects early, that's slightly different. It's a very different risk profile, right? When you're trading, for me, confirmation is really big. I think we had this conversation maybe in Singapore where we're very kind of similar in that respect. Looking for that confirmation, not getting in right at the bottom, and also kind of taking profit on the way up. Sometimes I watch these coins that just absolutely tear, and I'm out by that point because I've got my targets. I know what my set weekly goals are. I know what my monthly goals, yearly goals are. And yeah, maybe I kind of miss some of those really big moves sometimes, but I don't really see it as that outlier. Someone like Adrian, Crypto Bird, for example, is a trend follower. He's just got this wonderfully, beautifully calm nature about him, right? Where he steps out. Karushu we had on earlier as well, who's a really top guy, the same. Just these kind of like almost Zen wizards, right? They sit there and they're just like, I'll lose 7 out of every 10 trades. I don't care if I'm giving that back on the market because the 3 that I win just obliterate that on a return perspective, right? I'm the opposite. I used to freak out, right? I used to hate having a low win rate. It used to kind of tweak me out holding things for too long in the early days. So I was like, you know what? Understanding myself, I then was like, well, intraday trading, day trading makes so much more sense, right? Because I'm in, I'm out. Like you said earlier, I want to kind of see the position kind of rip and get into something I'm interested in, or to just get me out relatively quickly, right? Then I can go back, I can decompress, I can analyze, and I can reassess, right? That's how I kind of look at it. I've seen you kind of trade a number of different time frames, but correct me if I'm wrong here. You'll get yourself down on those kind of low time frame charts, right? You look at something on a 4 hour and you'll be like, looks good here on the 4 hour. Maybe we've got a key level we're engaging with, get down onto kind of like a framing time frame, look for that kind of structure to be what you want to see. And then, you're really not afraid to get in there on the 1, 2, 3, 5 minute charts, right? To kind of find those entries.
Yeah, I think it depends on the market. And also depends on just what I'm doing. I mean, if I'm live trading on stream and I want to get in and out of a position in under 2 hours, then yeah, I'm going to be, you bet I'm going to be trading on the 1 minute. If I'm trading in New York open reversal and it's intraday trade and I'm literally waiting for a reaction on the M1 chart, then of course I'm going to be darting in and out of the 30-second chart, unironically. But I would say actually the majority of my trading is on higher time frames than that. And I think as well, when conditions change, right? So when everyone knows this probably in the chat, but for those who don't, your trading style should be very different when price is ranging versus when price is trading, right? Or sorry, price is trending. Like markets trend something like, I don't know, 20 to 30% of the time, and the remainder of the time they range, right? But your range bound trading should be very different, right? Usually, now not always, usually you play for the mean reversion, right? You TP way more aggressively. You look for reversals at inflection points. You're trying to get bullish at range lows, bearish bullish at range lows, bearish at range highs. You're trying to not do a whole lot when price is trading around the mid range, because don't diddle in the middle. It's much more of a directional gamble. And you play for the fake out, you don't play for the breakout. Like, that's something as well that a lot of people get wrecked on, right? That's when you're trading ranges. When you're trading trends, it's a little bit different. It's more like, I think you're kind of like letting winners ride, right? You're not TPing aggressively. You're actually, in some cases, you're actually adding to positions, right? You're trying to build as that momentum builds, right? You're trying to, you're always trying to play for continuation, for breakouts, rather than playing for mean reversion or fake outs. You basically just banking off the momentum, right? So my trading styles, when price is doing both of those different things, are going to be very different, right? I'm much more of a scalper when price is ranging. I am much more aggressive about my TPs. I am much more, I guess, forgiving to myself when I close a trade early, because inevitably I will. With trends, it's a little bit different. I think because they happen so infrequently, and when they do happen, there's such an amazing chance to make money, that it's almost the opposite side. I come down a bit harder on myself if I TP too early, because I just feel like, as someone who learned to trade effectively in 2022, that's my bear market PTSD, slapping me in the back of the head. So I try and avoid that where possible. But yeah, I got asked that question on stream a few days ago, like, what time frames do you trade? And I jokingly said, I was like, well, I like the M1, the M2, the M3, the M5 is good, the M15, the M30. I like the H1 as well. Sometimes I check the H2. H4 is good for confidence, H12, D1, and of course the weekly and the monthly, right? And that's a bit of a joke, but there's actually some truth in it. I check all those time frames, and I trade off all those time frames with to some extent. I'm not taking swing trades on the monthly, right? It's not necessarily what I'm doing, but I do sometimes look at it for high time frame bias. Likewise, I'm not always scalping on the 30-second chart, but sometimes it does pay, especially if you're taking a really tight setup. Sometimes it just does pay just to see what's going on in those ultra low time frames. Especially like if you're trading in New York Open reversal and shit, is everything, the move is going to play out in 30 minutes. It absolutely pays to be on the 30-second or the M1 sometimes. So I guess that it's a bit of a cop out, but to answer your question, I think like most good traders I know have like a wide variety of timeframes that they check and a wide variety of timeframes that they trade off. I think maybe things are a little bit different for some guys. They're like, oh, I always H4, H1 are my reference timeframes, and I always execute on the M15. I'm much more of a spray and pray guy.
Same. I think going back to what you say, for me, I think it's very similar, right? Like, I mean, I didn't in my early days really do a lot of really low time frame stuff. I found it all like a little bit scary, especially in crypto. You're seeing some of these moves, you're like, Jesus, where did that come from, right? But I think it's looking for the same things. It's looking for what makes sense on the time frame that fits, right? For me, I'm looking for that high time frame bias. I'm looking for the framing time frame in the middle to say, okay, like, where's this thing going on a high time frame? What sets my bias on this? On a middling time frame, I'm saying to myself, okay, what does the setup look like? Is this a good position to get in? Have we got a nice gap? Have we got momentum? Have we reclaimed a level? Low time frame, or the entry time frames, for me, can range anything really from 1 minute to 15 minutes, sometimes an hourly, right? It's just I want to see the things that I want to see, which is normally good breaks, good momentum, displacement, price going through, and obviously decent R to R. And I think what you said earlier, I think will resonate with a lot of people, which is you have to flip out of those mindsets between the market conditions, right? And I think one thing I really didn't do well in my early years of trading was I was just kind of like, I just saw everything in a range. I learned my craft in a bear market. I was just like, oh, this is going to range here. Deviation, bang, I'm in. Whoa, man, look at that, just skyrocket, And then I was like, okay, hang on. What am I not considering here? What am I not kind of understanding about the trend? And actually, I did a lot of work on that. And actually, again, Adrian CryptoBird was really, really big with that, you know, because he's just got this way that he's just kind of like, look, this establishes my trend bias. This is what I'm in. And when this breaks down, then I'll chill, see if we regain that trend, and we'll go from there. But the mistake I think a lot of people make is just either trying to range things all the time. The worst mistake is people just trying to trade the whole time, right? You know, like using trending indicators and stuff like that, and you're in a bear market. And like you said, you know, it's only 20-30% of the time that we're in trending markets. So that's where I think the good kind of market knowledge and stuff like that comes in and just makes such a big difference. Now, we've got to wrap up really, so this is absolutely flown by. So there's a couple of things I just want to do before we go. But one more question that I want to ask. And then I want you to tell us about the, you know, the team over at Chroma that you've got, because they're really, really great guys. And I know a few of them, and they're just, you know, super traders. I think like yourself, you know, it was the biggest, probably one of the biggest honors of anything I've done work-wise was, you know, when Adrian asked me to kind of become the head of the market analyst team here. And I mean, it's kind of a title more than it is a thing. You know, these people are really, really independent, amazing traders. And again, I surround myself with better traders than myself, right? That's, you know, sounds like a bit of a cop-out in a way, right, compared to what you're saying there. But I mean, it's worked really well for me, right? TBN and stuff like that as well. So I'm really, really proud of that. I'm proud of finding these people. You know, we've got this new guy with us now as well, Just Pitt, who's just crushing it, man. Just an unbelievable trader. Finding these people, you know, bringing them in, having them as part of your team, speaking to them every day, really, really, really does boost, you know, it certainly boosts me, you know, just having that energy around you. So before we kind of get onto that little close out there with Chroma in a little bit, what would you say? Like, you're someone that had this kind of, I know I've kind of used this phrase really, but a relatively meteoric rise. You achieved a lot in a very small period of time. I did the same, but nowhere near to the same kind of level, right? You know, I kind of went and became a professional trader within kind of a year, 18 months. I'd quit everything, sold businesses that I had, really jumped in the deep end. What would be your advice to people if they want to emulate that success, and not to say, oh, just rush out there, go quit your job and just throw everything in you can, right? But you're an incredibly hardworking guy. You're someone that kind of just seems to achieve that nice life balance. What would you say to people as a key takeaway or key takeaways?
So, yeah, I actually answered this question a few weeks ago, so I kind of have it fresh in my mind. Something that I want to preface this by saying is, like, this isn't. So the answer to your question is basically I have a very good self-belief. I'll put it that way, right? I, like, in my life thus far, anything that I've really put my mind to, I've kind of achieved with varying degrees of success. But if I really want something in life, I really want to go for something, and I really put my mind to it, usually I can figure out a way to make that happen, right? And the variable there is effort. Like, am I willing to put in the hard work and effort to make that happen? But in circumstances where I am, then normally I'm able to achieve that goal. So actually, when I started trading, people are like, "But how did you, like, what was your edge, or how was, like, my edge when I started was that, like, I'm such a thick-headed, stubborn bastard that I never even entertained the idea that I was going to fail. Like, I always had it in my head that I was going to succeed. Like, that sounds like such a cop-out, and it might even sound like I'm cocky. I'm genuinely not. I'm trying to phrase it in as in the most kind of, like, neutral way possible. But, like, I honestly had such an unwavering sense of self-belief that I kind of like, I really felt like it would go my way as long as I put in the work. Now, the big variable there, as I just touched on, is hard work, because trading is fucking hard, right? And I don't care what anyone says. People always say, like, once you get to my level, it's easy. You just, no, bitch, that you haven't been trading long enough. It's never easy, right? Markets will humble guys like that very, very soon. And they can typically, markets can typically adapt quicker than those guys can. It's like trading is like one of the most hard, it's like one of the hardest things you'll ever do in your life, right? And not only is it hard, but it's hard consistently for a long period of time, right? And one slip up and you can lose months and months, if not years of progress. So it really is, in many ways, a kind of a tightrope that you're constantly walking on. But I genuinely think it's the beauty of it, the beauty of trading. It's not like being a professional. Like, you probably know this. It's not like being a professional musician where you can be the most talented drummer in the world, but you're still reliant on being in the right band and the studio picking you up and being commercially viable, right? It's not like being an actor in Hollywood where you can be the best actor, the most skillful actor. You put 20 years of work into refining your craft, and still you're getting no gigs because you weren't spotted by the director in the coffee shop. And you just never got your break. Trading isn't like that, right? Trading is, if you put in the work, there's basically a guarantee. If you put in enough work, right, the amount of luck that you need just reduces to zero, right? It's an inverse scale. So the harder you work, the less that is required to make it, until it gets to the point where you're almost statistically guaranteed to make it. You don't need to be a genius to make it in trading. You don't need to be some special talent or some generational ability. You just need to put in the work. And that's the beauty of it. The sad part about trading is that not many are willing to put in that work, or not many are able to put in that work. But I guess I guess that's the big takeaway for me, is that anyone can make it. Very few do make it, because there is such a high level of work that needs to go into doing it to a high standard, and to do it to a high standard consistently, right? And I guess the last point I'll make there is that, like, when you start getting better at trading, and when you start improving, there's like this period in, I'll call it like the middle part of your initial phase of trading. It's it's like the Dunning-Kruger effect kind of a thing. It's like, when you start trading, you just get this huge boost. You're like, oh shit, like yesterday I didn't even know what price action is, and now I've read the Investopedia definition. Like, so your information is going up at an exponential rate. Fast, and then you actually hit this plateau where, like, you realize, you kind of get a sense of how much there actually is to learn, and you realize that maybe it's not for you, and there's just too much to get to grips with. And it really doesn't feel like anything is going to click for the longest time. And you're not profitable yet. You can't spot setups like other guys. You're comparing yourself to other traders. But one day things start to click, and it might take 6 months. It might take 12 months. It might take 18 months. It might take years, right? One day things start to click, and it's so fucking satisfying because you didn't give up when things weren't clicking for the longest time. And then eventually they do, and shit just starts moving at an exponential pace.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to wrap up literally in about a minute, right? And I think that's the best way we could have finished that up. I'm a huge believer in hard work, a huge believer in, you read a lot of top books, people talking about, Tiger Woods, for example. I'm a massive golf fan, the 10,000 hour rule, that, you look at these top people that they all put in the work. There's a massive misconception in this space that it's very easy to come along, punt some money, make some money. And I think that's why there's such a high failure rate. I think people just have an expectation that it's an easy thing to do. And therefore, when you realize how much you have to grind and you hit that plateau, very, very difficult to kind of push through that, right? So we've literally got about 30 seconds left, mate, before I have to cut this short. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. We're going to share all your details. We're going to get the information out about you, about Chroma. Do you want to just give a very quick shout out to the guys in the team, so that we can get their details up there as well? And I'm sure they'll get a little buzz out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I run a Discord community, as I think it is a very high quality Discord community, much the same as Crypto Burb, called Chroma Trading. We've been operating for just over 2 years now. And yeah, as I said earlier in the call, my goal was always to surround myself with traders who are better than me. And we have a fantastic team of analysts and a thriving community of about 500 members. So if you're interested, we're doing a Black Friday sale at the moment. Check it out.
Awesome. I love it. And they're a really, really great group of people as well. And also, just, as a kind of inside joke here, I'd like to just give a special mention to your awesome intern as well. It was great meeting the intern out in Dubai, right? So look, as we're wrapping up here, we also want to extend huge appreciation to our incredible speakers and sponsors. Well, we've had DYDX, Bybit, Cointel, Dragon's Land as well. Don't forget to take advantage of the exciting giveaways that we've got going on as well. You can see the QR code on the screen. You join us on Discord, where we're giving away three monthly Nest memberships, every single day. Okay, now remember, the best time is now. I've been BC Richfield. This legend here has been Follis. Thank you so much for joining us. Follis, thank you, and take very good care of yourself, my friend.
Thanks for having me on. Take it easy, guys. Bye-bye.
Yeah, brother.